Hello and welcome back to Freddy in the Shed. I'm up in the shack, and on this video we're going to have a closer look at this RADDY RF-760 pocket shortwave radio. Coming up on this video, first we'll have a quick look what comes in the box, then we'll move on to the radio itself. Now, straight off the bat, I've got to say this RF-760, it is an amazingly sophisticated little radio for something that you can put in your pocket. We'll go into the menu systems, we'll cover all of the important stuff. I won't go into too much depth because the video will go on forever, and then we'll get on to the meat and veg of the video, which will be on-air testing. We'll test it, if I can, on all of the bands, all of the modes, and we'll see how well this radio receives. So let's get stuck into it. In the box, well, we do get a rather cheap looking pair of earbuds. Headphones, yeah, okay, it's quite nice that they come with a radio. You're going to use your own headphones. Then we have a long wire for the shortwave reception. Has a 3.5mm stereo jack on the end. I thought that would have been mono because it's single core. It's quite nice that you get that. It's essential really for shortwave. USB charging lead, USB-C becoming the standard. And then there's quite a nice little bag actually. You're going to probably use this on your holidays, so that should keep the dust out of the radio. And then finally, a little wrist lanyard. So we do have a set of instructions. Now this is a pretty complicated radio, lots of features. You are going to need a good set of instructions, and these instructions, I've got to admit, they're not bad. I think it's a little bit small. I think some of the text is a little bit small. And there's about 25 pages to go through, and you are going to have to go through this to fully understand how to use the radio and get the best out of it. I didn't see a PDF link on the website. I might have missed it. So yeah, you're going to have to sit down and read through the instructions with a cup of coffee. I maybe would like to have seen them a little bit bigger, but they are there. Firstly, the radio is very small. It's a travel radio, just 111mm high, 60mm wide, 20mm in depth. And when you pick it up, it is a bit lighter than I would have thought. And dare I say this, and I feel bad about saying this, but straight away when you first pick it up, it does feel a little bit cheap for the price that they're asking for the radio. I know it's packed with features. I guess the construction is light because it's to just save weight. It just fits in your pocket. But I might have preferred maybe a metal case or something for the money. I think maybe it could have felt a little bit more substantial, but that doesn't matter as long as it performs. In a second we'll go through the bands and modes the radio receives. Let's have a little walk around it first. So first thing, speaker, 40mm 1 watt. We'll see how it sounds in a moment. I suspect that's going to be a little bit tinny, to be honest. Buttons themselves on the front of the fascia, yeah, they're okay. Quite small, but they feel quite good to use. We have a tuning up and down here for the auto tune. Does have a manual tune on the side of the radio, and pretty pleased to see that. It's a little bit stiff, my one, straight out of the box. It sort of runs a little bit stiff and then it loosens up. I guess in time the nylon bush on that will probably loosen up, but yeah, it's a little tiny bit stiff. USB-C charging port. On the back of the radio, quite nice to see that it does have a stainless steel metal clip. Feels very substantial, that. Going to keep that onto your belt on your trousers, no problem. Battery compartment, pleased to say this radio does come with a replaceable battery. It's got the popular BL5C, which I call the Nokia battery. These are about £3 or £4 on eBay or Amazon, so if you were going on a long trip, you shouldn't have any problem just to take yourself a couple of spare batteries. Now, battery life takes about 4 to 5 hours to recharge. They reckon about 6 to 7 hours playtime with the radio, so it's not an incredibly long battery life. I thought for the size of the battery it might have been a bit longer than that. It's 1000 mAh, so again, yeah, you might want to get yourself a couple of spare batteries if you're going a great distance. This side of the radio, nothing on there. Personally, maybe a rotary volume control would have been nice from the side of the tuning there. It does have a stepped up and down button for the volume. Would have liked to have seen separate volume. And then on top of the radio we have a little indent there for the wrist lanyard. Then we have the 3.5mm headphone jack. I assume that's going to be stereo on FM, and then there's the 3.5mm jack for the extendable wire loop wire antenna. We do have a built-in telescopic whip antenna. I was quite impressed by the length, 21 inches, 53 centimetres, but to achieve that, I don't know if you can see that, the last two sections are incredibly thin, very, very fragile, especially that last one. It's like a piece of wire. So yeah, you're going to have to be really, really careful with this antenna if you're using this for travelling. Of course, the telescopic whip, you're only going to be using this, say, on FM for the broadcast band, and also the stronger shortwave stations. Should bring in stuff like Radio China, some of the real powerhouses on shortwave, but most of the time you're going to be using the plug-in long wire for your shortwave reception. So yeah, nice that it's so long, but would have liked to have seen that a little bit tougher. Got to be very careful with that. To the display screen, at first it does look a little confusing. There is a lot of information on the screen, but we're going to go through that step by step. The screen is backlit. It's a nice orange backlight. This comes on for about 10 seconds and then switches off to save the battery. Whilst the radio is in standby mode, if you press the power button once, this brings up a clock on the screen with seconds as well, and a nice little feature in the top right hand corner, also a thermometer, and if you press the mode button you can change this between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Pretty much all of the information to operate the radio is then shown on the top of the display. To scroll through this, you press the set button to select each item and then the mode button to change it. Let's start with the display over on the top left hand corner. The first top segment of the display shows you what mode the radio is setting. I think there's about 12 different modes in total. Next to this is the bandwidth selector. The radio automatically adjusts the bandwidth depending on what mode you're in, but you can manually adjust this in some of the modes such as shortwave, and there are 7 different bandwidths to choose from. Next is the radio's attenuation, and this is adjustable in 3 levels: local, DX and normal. For the testing I simply left mine in normal setting. It seemed to work pretty well. Next we have a volume level display. This runs from 0 to 40. When turned on, this will also show you the strength of the squelch. This is shown from 0 to 9. Next to this we have another dual display. This will either show you a small clock, or whilst the radio is tuning it will revert to a digital strength meter in decibels. The radio also has a built-in alarm function and a sleep timer, and when this is active it will show up on the screen here. Finally, there is a very simple 3-segment battery level display, and this will flash when the radio is on charge. On the bottom of the screen we have a nice clear 7-digit full frequency display. And incorporated in the middle of that is a very small little triangle. You almost miss it, and this is the step display. And I'm going to criticise it here because I would have preferred it if the digits flashed when you change the step rate. It is very, very small, at least for my eyes. It's good that all of your common features you're going to use on the radio, such as the mode change, attenuation of the antenna, bandwidth, it's all there on the radio, but of course because the radio is so small, fits in a pocket, you do have to pay a price, because to access these functions it is a double press unfortunately on the set and mode button. You do get used to it, but it would be nice if each function had a dedicated button. Certainly the bandwidth, for example, you can scroll through the settings on the bandwidth. I think there's 5 or 6 bandwidth settings. When listening to shortwave on the broadcast band, if you press the mode button, this will jump you up the frequency range at regular intervals, and from there you can set the step rate and you can tune manually with the VFO, or simply press the up or down button to instigate a scan tune. Overall, although the radio isn't that complicated to use, the screen is rather small, as are the buttons, and you probably will find there's a learning curve and you will have to refer back to the operator's manual. This is just the first few times that you use it. I got used to it fairly
quickly going around a menu system to get what you want, yeah, that can be a little bit frustrating, but as I say, it's the price you pay to have so many features on such a small radio.
Going to move on to some testing now. A couple of things I've noticed over this last couple of days. Firstly is that I thought I'd switched the radio completely off, but when I went to use it this morning, the battery had gone completely flat. So maybe I didn't quite have it switched off. That might be something you need to watch. I'll keep an eye on that. And then also, I've noticed this antenna, even though I've only been using this a few times, it's already got a little bit loose on that second section. So yeah, I'm not 100% that happy with that antenna being it so thin as well. So that's a bit disappointing. But anyway, let's crack on. So what we'll do FM and medium wave, and we'll test that using the built-in 1 watt speaker, see what that sounds like. And then when I move on to the other bands like shortwave, I'll connect it directly to the camera via the headphone socket. But I've got a feeling this is a radio that you're most likely to use with earbuds or headphones. Okay, let's go. On FM, there's a couple of stations that I like to test radio sensitivity and the receive strength of the signal, and that's 97.3, which is LBC, and 95.8. They're both quite weak to my home here. So let's turn this up, and we'll manually tune these in, and I'll use the auto seek when I do medium wave.
Costs, according to Zoopla. First-time buyers have to spend £122 more to own a house and pay a mortgage than if they rented the same property and paid a landlord for pleasure. So 2 years ago in comparison, a buyer would save £245 in the same scenario. The interest rates have changed the game. The average monthly rent sits at £1,000.
Okay, that's not bad. There's a little bit of interference coming through, but I am inside up in the shack. That's not too bad. Let's try Capital Radio. I just need to be a bit careful with music for the content. 95.8. Okay, it's there, but not brilliant reception. I would say that's average performance for using this indoors. I'll go down to Radio 2, so at least we can hear the speaker on FM.
Echo 100 of course. Top tip for your pizza oven, say Sam and Oliver. Buy the long-handled paddle and turn the pizza a quarter turn every 25 to 30 seconds and your pizza will be perfectly cooked. I've got one of those paddles. I've got one that's like a big shovel, like a big flat shovel, isn't it?
So yeah, okay, FM performance, it's average, it's nothing spectacular. Audio quality on FM, it's quite thin. That speaker does sound, dare I say, tinny. It is a little bit thin. Definitely a radio you're going to be using headphones on. But it's clear enough, you can pick up the news. But for music, it doesn't sound all that good, really. Okay, let's try it on medium wave. It does have a ferrite rod antenna, so I can put this rather thin telescopic antenna safely back into the radio chassis. I'm going to try the auto seek on medium wave, so we'll just turn the volume up.
56, but in the last few minutes that innings has tumbled right away, and in a match that was due to be Catherine.
That sounds better. That doesn't sound too bad.
She's missing it through injury. Suddenly the requirement for victory looks
not much on medium wave these days. Used to be packed.
today. Call on 0208 507 7900 or download the catalogue from heraldplastic.com. Herald is a manufacturer of high quality, eco-friendly and cost-effective concerns about its backlog of unresolved complaints. The regulator
Guys, it's got to go here. Well, the goals will come because let's not forget about it. It's a brand new team. The whole team is changed from the keeper.
So yeah, that's not too bad. I think it sounds better on medium wave than it does on FM. It's not outstanding. the sound isn't as good as the little 750 that I tested the other week. But yeah, it's okay. It's the sort of thing that you're going to say. You're going to listen to the news, get the weather, things like that. Just going to do it on auto seek on the airband. It will go right the way through all of the frequencies. There is some traffic about because I'm on the flight path from Luton Airport. Yeah, I think that did pretty well on airbands. Bearing in mind we're indoors, I'm just using the telescopic whip antenna, and that speaker is sounding a lot better now we're away from the broadcast band. It sounded quite clear, so yeah, that worked pretty good. Okay, let's move on and test some of the other bands. Going to stick with VHF for the moment, and then we'll move up to UHF. Going to scan through the 2 meter amateur band now. Set it onto, well, it automatically set itself on narrow FM, that's correct. It's set to 5 kilohertz, the bandwidth. I might have wanted to go down a little bit on that, but that should be fine. So, activity. So I'm picking up some comm now. I'm not sure if that's bleed over or that is maybe a local repeater, 147.58. I have tried to clarify it in. That's about as clear as it goes. I have gone up and down the band a couple of times. I don't normally get a lot of 2 meter activity around here, to be perfectly honest, and I'm indoors. So I can't confirm whether it's, you know, lively or deaf on 2 meters. Okay, going to move on now. The next band would be the 156 to 163 maritime band. No point in me really looking at that here. I'm right in the middle of the UK. If you live near the coast, or certainly if you were taking this on holiday, if you were going on a cruise, that would be quite interesting to get the ship-to-shore communication. If you went past any big ships, oil rigs, things like that. That's quite interesting, but we'll skip that one. Let's move up to UHF now. So, of course, this will cover the 70 centimetre amateur band. In the UK, that's around 430 to 440 megs. I think it's about 12.5 kilohertz bandwidth, so we need to switch that up. So I'll have a little tune around there. Yeah, and that's tuning away up and down the 70 centimetre band. I've not picked up anything. I've been doing this for a few minutes now. It doesn't surprise me though, because I don't normally pick up much around my QTH. It is there though. Again, you need an area perhaps where your 70 centimetre band is more active. To move on to PMR 446. Of course, this radio will pick up all of the 16 channels as long as the radios aren't encrypted with privacy codes. Going to use this little RADDY RT-616 low powered, just a 1/2 watt radio, and I'll do what I normally do. I'll take a little walk out in the streets and we'll transmit back to the radio and yeah, see what it sounds like. So here we go then, just put a couple of streets between me and the little RADDY radio. Going to transmit back now and see how it sounds. The audio test on the little RADDY. Audio test 1 2 1 2 3 4. The audio test on the little RADDY. Audio test 1 2 1 2 3 4. PMR 446. Audio test 1 2 3 4. Yeah, I think that sounded okay, to be honest. Just done a little scanner on the 446. I don't get a lot of 446 activity anymore around here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. Going to move on to shortwave now, and I'm going to retract the telescopic antenna, which I'm quite pleased to do because I just got a feeling I'm going to break that. That's so thin. We'll plug in the antenna that comes with the radio. It's just a piece of wire basically, but it's nice that they provide it. You can buy better ones on Amazon and eBay quite cheaply. So we'll plug that in, and then we'll have a little scan around the shortwave on the commercial band, and then later on I'll see if I can maybe get a little bit of ham activity and see how that sounds.
Sunday session with We'll be taking your calls on the Sunday section at 4:30.
I don't think that long wire worked particularly well indoors. I think it's picking up a little bit of interference from the house, and also it's just overpowering the radio. The shortwave stations, when they were coming in, they were a little bit too strong. I did try going through the options here, and I did try and adjust the bandwidth to see if I could hone in on some of those stations there, and also the attenuation device on the antenna. It's pretty crude, to be honest. I found that when I had it on local, it was completely deaf, and DX is super strong signal wise. It completely overwhelmed the radio, and normal seems to work. I just think that wire isn't working. So what I'm going to do is, it keeps trying to rain, but I'm just going to go out into the garden, just use the telescopic whip and see what comes in when we get away from the house.
Today, the gross inequality that's out there, the hidden money. Once you have a digital currency that's being accepted, it's transparent. You know exactly where it came from and where it's going to, and if you can't explain it.
I think it worked a little better out in the garden, but when it did find strong shortwave stations, it was still bringing in other stations underneath. I think what I'm going to do, because it started raining again now, so I can't go back outside, but I think what I'm going to do, instead of having the antenna fully extended, I'm going to extend it about halfway, probably about 25 centimetres, and I think that should reduce the gain down on the radio. We'll have it all flick round, and we'll try again, and hopefully it will lock on to some of the shortwave stations. It's really trying hard. It's a very keen little radio, but it's just a little bit too keen. One more thing I'm going to change as well for this test is I'm going to not use this cheap audio connection lead to the radio. I'm going to use these slightly better quality connectors, and this has a braided screen on the audio there, just in case it's getting some RF interference from the camera. Let's have a little tune around.
Oradan ayrılan kaynağı ihracata yönlendirmek için.
On Monday, someone 5 ministers of the increasing number of the street children. This summons came after SPLIO lawmaker Anok Bualding told the ministers of gender, child and social welfare.
لاجئين الشباب لكي يتمكنوا من رؤية وجه الله في الأوضاع التي يعيشونها. أنا متأكد حقا من أننا سنعرف جميعا معا أتراك ومسيحيين.
18 years ago when I landed in Shanghai, I was pretty shocked at how modern that city was, and shortly after that there was the Olympic Games, and you know they opened some of the first high-speed train lines, and I was, wow, you know, this is really sort of, you know, they're really invested in their infrastructure. Another one is cleanliness, how clean their cities were.
Cities, to a lot of smaller towns, highways. There's been, certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a massive push towards electric vehicles.
So there you go. Let me just turn the radio volume down. So it does work on shortwave. It does make you work for it, though. I say it's you got to really be a bit delicate on the tuning, and that's Radio China there, and it's bringing in that rather nice and clear. Okay, well, that's shortwave then. What I'll do now is I'm going to have a little flick round the amateur ham band just to see. I might get a little bit of CW, Morse code, but I don't know if I'll get any comms. But we'll just see how it works on the ham bands. I'm going to say, though, that I think the radio works better on sideband than it actually does on AM and FM. I think its sensitivity does suit it for a sideband receiver. Let's have a little flick around the handbands.
Sorry my friend, very, very waiting now. QRZ, this is Echo Alpha 3 Kilo Echo Alpha 3 Kilo Echo calling and standby. On 5, my name is Tony, Tango Oscar November India, and my QTH is near Barcelona in the northeast of Spain. Microphone is for you, Sierra Quebec 9 Delta Hotel Foxtrot. This is Echo Alpha 3 Kilo Echo, over.
In this moment, look point, looking Great Britain, not exactly in Poland direction. But in any case, the signal also dropped, no up. The changing the different, no so strong. Anyway, very booming signal to North Europe this evening after this hour. Sugar Queen 2 Lima Yankee Zulu, ICCFXP.
I wonder why you couldn't hear me. I still had the radio plugged into the microphone on the camera. So, yeah, upper sideband now on the handband. It didn't do too bad, did it? What I did for that is, let me show you. All I did was rigged up the extendable long wire and rather crudely just crocodile clipped it to my antenna feed to my Antron 99. But yeah, overall on the handbands there, it didn't do too bad, did it? Going to test the radio now on the CB band. The radio tunes from 25 all the way up to 28 megahertz, so all of the frequency band is covered. On CB band though, the radio only does tune AM and FM. And when I saw that originally, I thought that's a shame, it's missed out upper and lower sideband. But then I realised you can access the same frequencies with upper and lower sideband when you're in shortwave mode, so everything is covered. What is quite unique about this little shortwave radio, and none of my other shortwave receivers have it, is that when I tune through 27 megahertz, I can use narrow FM, and that means it will pick up the UK 40 2781 channels. That's our original 40, what we call the Muppet channels, and none of my other radios do that. Now, if you're going to take this radio on your travels, you do have to be a little bit practical when it comes down to the antenna. It has got the telescopic antenna, of course, and that will pick up local CB. If you go into a big city, I mean Italy, for example, they use a lot of power. I don't know, in America, on the AM band, they use a lot of power. It should pick up that, no problem. But if you're in the UK, you know, we're very spread out now on CB, so you're going to have to think about connecting a tuned CB antenna. You've got two options. You could just wire a mobile CB antenna, for example, into a 3.5mm jack, connect that in the top of the radio. Alternatively, and this is probably what I'll be doing on the second part of the testing, just a crocodile clip, just attach it to the telescopic antenna, and that should work. I'm going to do two tests. I'm going to do a UK FM test because I've never done that before on a shortwave receiver. I shall keep the antenna firmly down so it doesn't overload the radio, and we'll go downstairs and we'll transmit from the shack on low power just to see how that sounds. And then I will crocodile clip on my exterior Antron 99 CB antenna, and we'll tune around and we'll see if we can get some sideband, some skip coming in from Europe. I don't think we've got any America coming in, but we'll see what that sounds like. So let's get on with that.
Check now, audio check on the little RADDY 1, 2, 3, 4, just transmitting on 1 watt in the shack on my CRT 6900 radio. Audio, 1, 2, 1, 2, audio.
CQ Italian Municipalities Award, looking for Europe, UK and North America. 1 Alpha Tango Italy 040, 1 Alpha Tango Italy 040, 1 Alpha Tango Italy 040, listening 680, 680 for Lima, 680 please.
November Bravo 917. The first name here is Laurent.
My name is Lawrence Lima Alpha Uniform Romeo Echo November Tango. The first name here is Lawrence, and I am in southern France, Bob. Over. Okay, Bob. So the station from the United Kingdom, I'm trying to have a contact with the 123 division. I'm trying. Please, everybody from the UK, please just stand by. Sorry, Bob. Too much station from the UK are calling me. Could you try again one more time, Bob? Over.
Had this radio for about a week and a half now, had some great fun playing with it, and conclusion time. What do I think? Is it worth its salt? Is it worth its money? I think it's definitely horses for courses. Let me explain. Do I think that the performance of this radio could, for example, replace this full-sized shortwave receiver? No, I don't think it could. However, would I want to carry this around if I was going on holiday? Would I like to sit at an airport waiting for my plane to arrive with this great big thing on my lap? Absolutely not. And I think that's the main point of this review. We have to look in context of what this radio is trying to achieve. So we'll take that away. And yeah, do you know, I think it actually really works as a travel radio. There is no denying, you can't deny it, that you are getting a lot of coverage and a lot of features for your money. I do have a few criticisms, however, of the radio, and I think my main criticism is really the fact that they've made the radio in such a small form. And I do understand that it is so small, it's so light that you can put it into a shirt pocket, but I think that has compromised it a little bit. Personally, if they may have made it just a few millimeters thicker, I think they could have supplied a better antenna. I'm very, very worried that if I was taking this on holiday, I just think I would end up snapping this. It is so thin, it is so delicate. Also, the speaker, it's fine. Like I say, you can hear the news on it, and on airband it's fine. But again, if they would just add a little bit more depth to the radio, I think they could have got a better sounder speaker in there. I mean, especially on the cheaper RADDY-760 radio, that sounded absolutely excellent. So it can be done. It's really nice though that they've thought about this, and you've got a manual tuning VFO. If you don't want to use that, of course, auto seek up and down, and then you can save these in your memories and go through those, and you can move and delete the memories about. That is a good feature. I do wish it had a manual volume control on this side. For me, using the radio, tuning one side, volume on the other, that would have been absolutely perfect. If you're interested in looking into purchasing one of these radios, there is a link in the description to the RADDY website. I'll say at this stage, I'm not on any commission for sales, I'm not on any kickback. They do send the radios in free of charge. I'm happy to review them. I try and show you the good and bad on the radio. That's it for this video. There's the thumbs up from Fred in the Shed. Thank you for sticking with it. I hope it's been interesting. I hope it's helped you if you're interested in this radio. If so, just hit me a thumbs up down below. I would appreciate it. Stay tuned, stay subscribed for more radio reviews, more CB, just some other stuff as well that I'll be putting up on the channel soon. But as for now, as always, please, 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 look after each other, stay safe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.